I don't care what you look like or what you think. I don't care what you do or where you're from. All I care about is that gift hidden inside you. And all I want to do is help it come alive. Because where we're going, we're going to need a lot of heroes. For the record, 10,000 Heroes is brought to you by Momentum Lab. The point of Momentum Lab is to turn idealists into impactors by aligning your dreams and aspirations with success in every area of your life today. Momentum Lab is like a playground for your highest self. We take your dreams seriously and help you remove any blocks to realizing them. We do this through courses, virtual events, in-person events, and our signature year-long accelerator. To join our world, engage in dialogue, meet up in person, and just blow your mind, sign up at momentumlab.com. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the show. I'm Ankur Shah Delight. This is 10,000 Heroes. And for those of you who are watching the video episodes, you might notice that I've changed a little bit of what I'm doing here. I am more seated in the studio. I set this up so I could have live, in-person guests. Right now I don't. This is a solo cast, but I thought I'd let you see what the chair looks like because it's a pretty awesome old chair. But today's episode is really going to be about integrating red. I had that conversation with Jeff last week about how to integrate just that red strata of the human experience, both individually and collectively, and he gave me some interesting ideas and some tips. So I just wanted to report back on what I've done. And so I have four things to report on. So one is about adrenaline, one is about anger, and two are investigations of this warrior nature of red that he brought up. So I think this is all connected. I mean, it is certainly like the developmental story that Jeff is trying to tell. But for me, is it actually connected in my everyday life? Still not sure yet. But let's start with adrenaline. So, as I think I mentioned, I may or may not have in that podcast, I have this interesting, for me, and I think perhaps unusual relationship with adrenaline, where when I feel it, it's not helpful. And rather than helping me in a situation, I think the clearest example for me is in a sports, like a competitive sports situation where it's like, all right, you get this chemical unleashed through your body and it's, I think, supposed to be helpful. I experience it as exactly the opposite. It's in fact a lot like caffeine, where it just ruins my performance and I'm just distracted and I can't focus and I'll choke in any sports game where I experience adrenaline. Luckily, I'm not that concerned about winning sports games, so it's not that big a deal. But as part of this investigation, I would like to be able to use that effectively. I'd like to see that as a gift, and this is going to be true with anger as well. It's part of my investigation. If we can see every experience that we have as a gift, in every emotion, every sensation, if we just see it for what it is and not have a negative reaction to it, aversion or craving, and Goenka could use words. So, with adrenaline, the way I've decided to try and address this is learn a martial art, which I've never done as an adult. And the idea there was, all right, how do I put myself in a situation as quickly as possible where I'm feeling a lot of adrenaline so I can learn how to habituate myself to it and to handle it well. I could play some really competitive pickleball, which I have some friends I could do that with, but it would probably take to the end of a game, and it would probably be more likely with singles, and a lot of people play pickleball doubles. So it just didn't seem time efficient because it's not like I have hours and hours supporting this project either. So a couple friends who've done martial arts, including Nate and Matt, told me, hey, you should try that. You're going to get freaked out real quick because people are trying to kill you. So that's what I did, and I called a friend of a friend who does something called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which I knew absolutely nothing about, except that when they have this multi-fighting thing where all the fighting people are fighting each other, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu people tend to win. But really, I had no idea why, and I still don't. But I took a couple of these classes, and I just want to report back. I did it, so that's a win. And by the second class, where there was a game where someone's trying to push you over and you're trying to not get pushed over, I definitely felt that adrenaline thing of just flipping out, and everything that I thought I learned in those 2 classes just went out the window, and I just had my chemical sensory reaction, and it was totally not helpful. So I'm really stoked I got that experience, and now I'm going to be able to work with it and try and use it to my advantage. So that's my progress report on adrenaline. And if anybody knows anything about that or wants to chime in, obviously, maybe not obviously if you're new to the show, but that's what we're trying to do here, is create more relationship and more engagement and more mutual learning. So there's that. That's one. The second is about anger, and I have a little bit of progress on that. The idea is like, how do I use anger effectively? Jeff has been texting me all week since our last podcast about these metaphors of how his anger is like a bulldog on a chain that he lets it snarl, and then he's like thinking about just unleashing the chain entirely. I have no idea what he means by that, but I love the imagery. But I will tell a story that I was dropping a friend off at the airport, and I was in that airport drop off. You know, people are coming in, people are coming out, and I had just finished dropping them off, and I think I was like repairing my phone with the car so I could listen to some awesome, 80s music on the way home. And this woman is like yelling at me through the window, like, "Can you please move?" And but it was through the window. It was kind of hilarious because I could hear her, but not really. So I rolled down the window, and she asked me again, or demanded really, "Could you please move?" And it was a really good opportunity for me to investigate what it would be like not being complacent and not being compassionate and not being like the nice guy. And so I played with it with a little bit of humor, and I was, to me at least, I don't know if it was noticeable by anyone else, but I was like, oh yeah, I can move. And so I was like complying kind of semantically, but my tone was really, there was no urgency. There's a real discrepancy between her sense of urgency and my sense of urgency in that moment. And then we went about the rest of the interaction. But then as I was driving away, I was like, God, should I have been more angry? Should I have been upset? Should I have just cussed her out for being so rude? I'm like, what is the right way if I want to integrate anger and see it as a gift and see every moment as an invitation to be more present? What would be the right way of responding to that? And I'm not sure, but a guy in my coaching program just posted about anger, and so I'm going to meet with him tomorrow and have a little anger therapy or something. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be awesome, and I'm going to post that. I'm going to record it for the show. So progress report on adrenaline, progress report on anger, and with this, the whole idea of the red stage as the warrior stage, which I'm just taking this from Jeff and Ken Wilber. I was just taking that seriously and like, okay, what does that mean? And so I did 2 things. One, I had a conversation with John Giuliano, who's one of my earliest mentors. He's been on the show a couple times. And I don't even know if we got into it in the episode. So maybe you heard it, maybe you didn't. Maybe you listened to the episode, but you didn't get this. He spent 10 years in El Salvador during the Civil War and was involved in the Civil War in various capacities. And I'm not exactly sure all of the different capacities because of his meandering storytelling style. But I did get him on the phone, and we talked a little bit about some of his experiences with anger and with the war. And I was really moved by that episode, and I think you will be too. So that's coming out soon. And then the other thing, one of the things Jeff said, he said that in the warrior phase of development, people are looking around at every situation with something like an air of, what can I fight here? All right, what is there to fight? What is there to fight here? What can I fight? That's how they see the world. And at that moment, I thought of my father-in-law, who is very, he's quite a powerful presence. He was part of the group that won the Nobel Peace Prize for the Tunisian transition from dictatorship to democracy a few years ago. Like 12 years ago is when that happened. But he has this attitude of he's an activist, right? He's a human rights democracy activist, but at every moment he is looking around for a situation where he can fight. where he can get involved and go to a protest, or organize a protest, or stand up for something, or sign a petition, or do something, constructive in his mind and in my mind. But he really, I think he really does see it as a continuous fight. And it doesn't matter to him at any given moment whether he wins or loses. Like, the outcomes of elections or individual protests are really, they're like water off a duck's back. The kind of things where I would be really disappointed. He's just like, oh yeah, we're gonna just do this other thing tomorrow. Oh yeah, no big deal. No one showed up at that protest. We're gonna do another one tomorrow. Oh, that law that we've been trying to prevent or repeal for months, it passed, like, whatever, we're just gonna do another thing tomorrow. It's just always on to the next battle. And there's I think there's something about that attitude, that incredible persistence and almost like immunity to despair, that is worth me integrating, and maybe you integrating. So that's my report today. Thank you. And you'll hear more about all of these topics soon.
Hi everyone, this is Martin Stan, your producer, audio editor, and sound designer in chief for the 10,000 Heroes team. I just wanted to take a minute to thank you for listening to our show. Let me tell you a couple of things. 10,000 Heroes is brought to you by the team at Momentum Lab. Pierre does our artwork, DJ Plainview composed our theme music, and I handle all the editing, production, and sound design. And now we're closing this episode with a word from our main sponsor, who also happens to be our host, Anchor.
Hey everybody, thanks again for listening. If you like this episode, there's 2 things I want you to do. 1, introduce me to the most inspiring person you know so I can have them on the show. And 2, take the next step towards us hanging out in person. Maybe that's signing up for the newsletter. Maybe that's attending an upcoming in-person or virtual event. What I'm trying to do here is destroy the basic one-to-many nature of this medium, podcast, entertainment, and replace it with something that actually builds connections between people, the beloved community, getting closer together, understanding each other, one conversation at a time. So, join me. Bye!